this is Cassandra Williams, and I am coming to you from near Pritchard, West Virginia. It's on the Tulsa Highway in Wayne County. I'm going toward Huntington. I've got an appointment there this morning with the orthopedic people uh, to see what's going on with my shoulder, and it's been an issue for a while. I had surgery on it a year and a half ago, and it still is giving me fits, actually. It hurts. So, anyway, I don't know what you can see through the back of this car, but I'm going to turn the thing around so that my camera around so that you can see where I'm driving. So here we go. Let's see if I can do this without shutting it all off. There you go. So right now in front of you, this is the Tulsa Highway near Pritchard, West Virginia. And it's beautiful here. Central Appalachian Inland Ports up here, and here's the exit toward Pritchard. Basically, Pritchard is it's an inland port on the Big River. So that's what this is. And a lot of coal gets shipped from here, and other stuff gets shipped to here. So yeah, that's what this is all about. That's primarily the biggest thing in the area. This is the Samuel Drown Bridge, Sergeant Samuel Drown Bridge. Anyway, and so I'm going up here to go to the VA, and I'll supposed to be there by 11:30. It is now 10:46 in the morning, a.m. Not too far away, actually, so I'm glad. So I've been doing some recording and some little video clips, and whenever I do release them, because there's no signal primarily all the way out through here on Tulsa Highway coming through, Crum and Kermit, East Kermit. Forget it. There's no signal down through there. Step Town, all the places. There's no signal for my AT&T phone anyway, so I don't know about anyone else, but yeah, there's no signal out through there. So we've been talking about Doug Jones. Shoot, no, I know Doug Jones. Doug Jones, yeah. Down in Alabama, a senator from Alabama. So anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. Doug Wilson, pastor of the church out in Moscow, Idaho, of which Pete Hegseth has been a member and a follower of since 2018, when he moved to Nashville to join that church, to be part of it. It is a Christian nationalist, or actually Christian dominionist theology that they preach, and is more than that. They do not believe women should be in any position of authority, and you can see that's what Pete Hegseth is doing. He's stripping women of any positions of authority or leadership and putting them in places where they're more like advisors and secretaries. He's doing it across the whole with everybody, including admirals and people who, it just is just disgusting to me. Disgusting to me. But anyway, so check out the email that I sent out this morning. If you received it, great. If not, please go subscribe on the website, www.cassandra-llc.com. Go check it out. Go sign up, register. Go check out the blogs on that site as well. You'll see a lot of what I'm talking about and the things that I'm thinking of. And by the way, I want everyone to know that these are my opinions. These are my thoughts. These are things that I see and the pieces of the puzzles that I start putting together. And it doesn't mean that my position is the only thing that could be interpreted from these things, but it's what I see from the experience and background that I have. And it's going to come across as offensive to some people, I'm just hoping people will ask questions of me or anyone really of this entire whatever, because I don't know it all, and people may know other things and that see things differently, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm all for that. What I am not for, though, is a theology being imposed across the whole of our federal government, and whose principles and ways of thinking are not solely stuck to or attached to Christian nationalism or Christian dominionism. It is also Shia theocracy. That's exactly what's running um, Iran. Is a Khomeiniism that's running it, and they have the power, and they do have a government instituted underneath them, and that's the way they perceive things. That government is beholden entirely to the faith, the Shia theocracy, and that's what Doug Wilson wants in this country and around the world. He said that in the CNN piece just the other day. He's repeated it in his book from 2005. He's not disavowed any of that, and neither has Pete Hegseth. As of this right now, as of me saying this right now to you, Pete Hegseth has not disavowed or distanced himself in any way from Doug Wilson. You'll look on their website, you'll find that there are no women in leadership roles. They don't think they belong there. They think that women serve one purpose, and that is to fulfill the needs of the men and be submissive to them in their marriage, and never, ever, ever have a position of authority over. They think that the women are just for making babies and fixing things in the house and taking care of all that and raising the kids, and not even to vote. Wilson said that. And so did the associate pastor. And I'm still railing about it because I can't believe that there are people who would support this. It's just astonishing to me. And I know I have met people who have told me point blank that they submit to their husbands and their churches. When I went to a church down in Tuscaloosa. There was a big church down there. Big church, Highlands Church. Okay. They knew who I was, but we were having conversations. I was having conversations with the pastors and stuff like that. Big, big, big church. There's 50,000 members in that darn Highland Church. Okay. They are strongly opposed to who I am. So I was going there because, I have some strong inclinations in that direction. That's how I was raised too. Okay. But one day they decided to call me into the office. And we had a conversation, and they said, we want you to use the other bathroom down the hallway and not the women's bathroom. And I said, no. And then they said, but there's one down there that you can use the men's bathroom or the other bathroom. And I said, no, because, and I explained to them why. I said, look, I am anatomically completely female. I really don't care what you think beyond that. My voice, you just have to get over it. It's no Marine Corps voice. And I said, and besides, here you are as a pastor in this church, a senior leader in this church, and you're talking to me alone in your office. There should be a woman in here. And he said, okay, we'll do it again the next time. I'll get a woman in here. And so what he did was he brought a woman and her husband in, and we had another conversation a different day. And this lady, who is an educated woman, told me point blank that she follows and submits to the will of her husband because that's what is biblical. And I'm thinking, you haven't read that darn Bible, lady. There's no freaking way you read that. There are strong, powerful women. As a matter of fact, the first person sent out to spread Jesus's message was a woman. I take that. But anyway, so I stopped going there because they weren't going to, they just saw me as a threat to everything they believed in. And I was trying to be really nice and polite to them. And I really was. I tried really hard. But it wasn't to be. Anyway, so I left that church. But now we're seeing Doug Wilson. Now this, by the way, this nation was not founded as a Christian nation. The founders were deist at best. They were not theist at all. Jefferson was very familiar with various religious texts from around the world, Christian and Vedic literatures from Hindu stuff, as well as the Quran. He had those in his library. He read them. He studied them. Yeah, that's Jefferson. And I dare say, and I don't know this to be the case, but I'm pretty sure based on what I've seen of Alexander Hamilton's writings, because I've read about 95% of his stuff, he was the same way. They were both polymaths, very intelligent people, but they were diametrically opposed from each other. One was a Federalist and the other one was an agrarian from Virginia. But anyway, I digress. This nation wasn't founded on those principles. The very first treaty that we had with anyone outside of this country was with the Barbary pirates, Muslim pirates who were attacking Christian nations and their shipping. And we didn't want them coming after us, so we made it very explicitly stated that we're not a Christian nation in no way, shape, or form. And then also states. The states had in their statutes, in their constitutions, and in their various policies and stuff inside state government and the operations of the states, made it very clear they didn't want pastors in any kind of senior leadership position in the states. It was against their rules, their statutes. Told people that, no, we're not going to have a preacher as a governor. We're not going to have a preacher in the state house or the legislature or whatever legislative bodies in the state. They weren't going to have it. This was in the 1800s, early 1800s. Texas actually said the same thing in their first constitution, the Constitution of the Texas Republic. No pastor should be an executive in this state, meaning legislature or governor's office. They felt they had an obligation to take care of their church, but not to run the state. They didn't want that there. There was a separation. Somewhere along the line, we forgot all of that, and everybody's telling us, no, that was just a big lie. Nobody said anything like that. But my goodness, there are propagandists out there trying to sell you on all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to tell you that Doug Wilson and Pete Hegseth are basically good people, and they maybe are. But the stuff they believe is destructive to this country. It doesn't match anything. It takes away the agency and power of women, and it makes them less than. It says in a book that Doug Wilson wrote in 2005, he basically says that women are just for raising babies and taking care of the house. That was it. That was it. And also being submissive to their husbands and not voting. Yeah, they've said that. And you can see that's what Pete Hegseth has been doing. You just look at the trends. Everything he's done falls right in line with all of that. And you wonder why I keep railing on this stuff. I've been talking about it for a long time now, it seems to me like. Actually, I've been talking about it for several years. And that's been the problem. Nobody's paid attention. You know, I feel like Cassandra in the Greek mythology part where she was a prophetess and she was telling everybody that this is happening and this is what is going to come and all of that. And nobody believed her, and sure enough, it happened, but nobody heard her voice. So, yeah, sometimes it feels that way, but I have to keep going. Now, look, I want to say this very clearly. These are my opinions. They're based on what I see and hear. They're based on they're filtered through the things that I know, but the experiences I've had. And I could be totally wrong, completely, totally wrong. And I hope I am. But it sure doesn't seem like it to me. What I see is dangerous for this country, the future of this country. I don't know how we pull out from all of this, because what's going on right now is they're reshaping the whole of the federal government so that people like Doug Wilson and Paula White, well, they don't want Paula White in there. Doug Wilson doesn't. He's up in arms over that anyway. Why would Trump put in a woman as a leader of a church group in the White House? Well, that's political to Trump. You know, he gets the vote of the women that way. But he doesn't really care about the women either, because all you have to do is look at what he's done to women over the years. And whether you think it's true or not, the evidence is there. He's been that way for years, decades and decades, and at least since the early 1980s when I started learning about who he is. Yeah, been that way ever since. I mean, that's who he is. And that's what Hegseth is. And that's what Kevin Roberts is. And J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, you know, the one who legally changed his name to Vance. gift from J.D. Bowman. Yeah, that one. I'll respect that. He wants to be called Vice President Vance. That's fine. That's fine. I changed my stuff too legally, every bit of it, and physically. It would be nice to be treated with respect in return, but he's not going to do that because I don't fit into his theology. He's an Opus Dei person, one of the militant Catholics, just like Doug Wilson is one of these militant Christians. And he's not the worst of it. There are a whole bunch more out there, but Wilson is the most visible right now. Wilson's the one who has a church beside the Heritage Foundation's office in D.C. That one. Oh my God. Anyway, so right now I'm on Airport Road. This would be where the Huntington Airport's located. But I'm going to be turning off here. You go straight ahead to the airport. I'm going to turn off here so I can go to the VA. So far the signal is strong. I hope it stays that way for a few more minutes. I have an 11:30 appointment. It is now 11 a.m. Eastern time here, and still in Wayne County, but Huntington's actually in Cabell County. So anyway, so I've been really, really, really concerned about the direction that Pete Hegseth has taken our Defense Department, what Kevin Roberts is doing at the Heritage Foundation.